everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Chiropractic Success Summit. I am your host, Dr. Mike Headley, and I am so excited to introduce our next guest. Why? Because he's a man who walks his talk. He's on purpose. He's on fire. He's just a giver and a lover, a server. He's a great example what chiropractic is. He lives it, he teaches it, and he's passionate about it, and he's going to help us out learn some things in just a minute. And that man is Dr. DePice. He's been practicing chiropractic since 1987. His educational background of having majored in chemistry and biology combined with his lifelong experience and knowledge of chiropractic positions him to be a doctor who pursues knowledge with a balanced focus on the practical application of science and philosophy upon patient outcomes. His track record of unparalleled results lies in his consistent execution of delivering an ideal balance in personal and procedural development and integration of science and philosophy into practical patient experiences. Building team-driven practices, cash practices, and lifetime care are all cornerstones of his coaching program. Dr. DePice excels at understanding and inspiring patients and doctors alike with a clear approach to combining science and philosophy in practice to optimize both the patient's and doctor's outcomes. He is able to accomplish this with the support of his wife, Dr. Gena Bofshever, and his 3 children. Such an honor, Dr. Dean. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, thank you. You're welcoming me. You know, it's amazing to stand still while someone reads that. I think I know why you have team members write something like that, because I don't know. That was quite a grand and lovely opening. Thank you.
It's all true, and you are so welcome. So I ask all of my interviews the same question: what drives you and gets you out of bed every day?
Each moment, each breath is a gift. I mean, life is a gift. So when I wake up in the morning, I struggle with the same struggles anybody struggles with. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to get up early. And the second, though, I start to think, I'm instantaneously presented with choice to either grind my teeth over the struggles of life instantaneously, which is easy to do. You know, wake up and go, oh my gosh, what day is it? Oh my gosh, what time is it? Oh my gosh, am I late? Oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh, we got to get to the practice. Oh, it's work. And, you know, we instantaneously go into this sympathetic reflex that, you know, the antelope in the jungle has to do from waking up, but we're not antelope. We're not in a jungle like that. We can wake up and choose joy. So I think one of the things that gets me out of the bed is to say, whoa, thank you, God. Thank you. I'm here again. Thank you. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to get out of the bed. I'm going to go exercise first. So it's a massive saturation in a conditioning that I've chosen to do for myself. And because I'm inspired by others that I see do it, to wake up and continually be grateful for every breath and know that if I have a breath, I better get up and do things in the hierarchy of how they need to do. My vertical relationship first. It was Denzel Washington said the thing about, you know, one thing his daddy taught him when he was little is to shove his slippers way under the bed. And of course, the interviewer said, why is that, Denzel? And he said, because that meant I had to get on my knees the first thing I got out of it. So, you know, first thing is my vertical relationship. And one of the ways I get to my prayerful place is I sweat. I'm a dominant kinesthetic communicator, so I got to get to the gym. I got to sweat. So I get on my knees and I pray. I get in the bathroom, get ready. I get to the gym, I sweat, and then I sit down and I read, write, and journal. And I immediately share gratitude cards with hundreds and hundreds of chiropractors all over North America, because that's one of the reflexes we do. We keep each other accountable to start every day having written gratitude. A lot of chiropractors, oh, I'm grateful. I think of gratitudes all day long. I'm sitting in a trap. Right. You didn't write them. See, unless we write them, we don't have the visual, the auditory, and the kinesthetic exchange of learning going on. So that's how I start my day when I have the choice to start it ideally. I was just saying to my wife, this is the first time I've been home 5 days in a row in about 2 months. And I love being home. I love it because I have my gym, I have my bed, I have my rituals. So I don't know, that might have been a long answer, but what gets me out of bed is instantaneous gratitude as soon as I can think a conscious thought to choose gratitude.
That is beautiful. And there's so many nuggets. I mean, we could stop the tape right now and just build on that. And I'm serious, not just, wow, that felt really good. Let's put that on our shelf, you know, seminar.
Yeah, but I didn't come up with any of that, you know, and I think it's important for us to all acknowledge, look, there's no one out there that has invented anything that's really new. What's new is that you might be hearing it or opening your ears or your thick skull to it for the first time. That's new. Or what might be new is the way we're talking about it. But even the most contemporary and outrageous communicators, you know, we're in the trendy times of the Simon Sinek's who's writing compelling books. I read everything, but he's not presenting anything new either. But the way he's presenting helps climb into more of our consciousness. So thank you for saying we could stop right now, but really I'm just churning up the great things that all great people have done.
Oh, thank you for being so humble and so honest and authentic. However, I truly, truly love the idea of doing what we say. And that's what I said in the intro. You walk your talk. So yeah, we're all grateful and thank you, God, and thank you this, but let's actually put the actions and the doing to what we say, right? Just that's
Amen.
what I think takes us to the next level. And so could you tell our audience a little bit about your story into chiropractic?
Well, I've been getting adjusted since I was born. My mom went through health issues, and those of you who've been in my CE programs or my curriculums, you've experienced the story. We don't have time for it right now, but because of her life, when she gave birth to me, I was the third and final child. She decided she was going to raise me differently. So from birth, I got adjusted. I had one vaccination. I got 6 afterwards. She pulled me from vaccines. She raised me on getting adjusted whenever I was sick, got the measles, whatever. She started to learn about vitamins and supplements. She used to have a Richards catalog. She'd go and you had to, back then ordering stuff was not online. It wasn't even by telephone. There were no credit cards. You know, you had to fill out papers, put a check in there and wait weeks for something. But she was a vitamin taker, adjustment pursuer from way back when. In second grade, I asked for an electric guitar to play guitar like Jimi Hendrix and the Doors and the Beatles, and my parents bought me a flamenco guitar and sent me for Latin guitar lessons. Quickly, I ended up in the classical arena studying classical music in Manhattan, and by the time I made it to college, I was scholarshiped into Mannes Music Conservatory in my first year. I ended up playing in the graduating, exiting senior recital at Carnegie Recital Hall as a freshman. And so I was a bit of a boy prodigy in classical studies. And I realized I was going to be one of the world's great players at something that for me at the time felt like it was giving me narrower exposure to life. So I was going to be the finest at something that was small in terms of what I wanted to encounter. So I left the music conservatory. And I swore I wasn't going to do anything for a year or so because I'd been such a maniacal practice. I would practice 9, 10, 11 hours a day classical guitar. So it wasn't long after that my chiropractor tapped me on the shoulder. Well, we had Ralph Alloy, who was a medical doctor. He was a relative who wanted me to go to medical school. And I remember going down to Rutgers and visiting, blah, blah, blah. And we had Michael Sabia, who was my chiropractor, who was kind of like an uncle in the family. He said, "You're going to chiropractic school." So I went and started visiting chiropractic schools, and it was evident to me, I've loved chiropractic. I've always loved chiropractic. So it wasn't long after that I started pursuing the road of I was going to chiropractic school.
Awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
This is called the Chiropractic Success Summit, and do you have a definition of success for yourself?
Oh boy, I didn't think about that one in advance, but the first thing that comes to my mind is that I would be a man who pauses for peacefulness. And what stirs in me in that is I know what matters most to me is to connect with people, and in connecting with them to provide and protect such that my home and my life gives shelter to what's most important to them. And once that friendship has clear safety, to then provoke them. When I am a man who connects with people, provides and protects people, and then provokes them to the greatest they can be, I'm living out what opens my heart the most. And pausing in that is important because I can be a bit of a barreler. And I think of my daughter and my wife because they're the two tenderest of people that I'd love to look out for. When I don't pause for peace, I'm not the man I can be for them. So my definition of success is when I'm a guy who's connecting, protecting, provoking, and really helping others play their story out to their best potential.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. I've never heard it said like that, so I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Well, it's something we work on in TLC, which is a statement of desire. No chiropractor is really going to reach to the levels they need to reach if they're not constantly filtering all the things they're reaching for through their statement of desire, their heart's desire. So, I'm grateful you've put together conversations like this, because to me, our profession is littered. Well, really, the world is littered with information. There's no lack of information. And people say, I need more information. No, you don't. If one of the things I thought we might get into today, if your life is somewhere in here and we look at all the things that drive the circle of your life, we have issues that are head related, which is I need more information. We have issues that are heart related, and I don't know if this is on the screen, I hope it is, but that are heart related. And then we ultimately, in the end, have issues that are hands related. And this whole trinity here of head, heart, and hands means this is information. And the world keeps reaching for information. Well, I need more information. I need more information. And information is necessary, but the heart is the source of inspiration. It's the way that we're going to get to where we need to go. It's the way that we're going to drive the passion to follow through on the difficult moments. The heart can also be devious. It's the way we're going to finish a half gallon of ice cream when we should have just had a little cup. The heart is that, give it to me, and then last, the hands represent action, So in our profession, we constantly reach for more information. And often we have chiropractors whose hearts are absent, or chiropractors who never really take the action. So we are wise to have good information. But one of the things I'm very deliberate with in TLC is I start with making people have to write their statement of desire. And they don't sit and write it like they're having a punishment in the corner of the room. We converse on it, and I help converse in ways that draws it out of them. But this whole head, heart, and hand things is constantly at play, because when you have the right information, sometimes your heart will light up. Some people, until their heart lights up, they're not willing to hear the information.
Yeah.
Some people, the information helps them take action. Some people, the information they hear causes them to stop action, or it goes the other way. And some people, when they take action, they access their heart. Some people, when their hearts are activated, they take action. Some people, and depending upon the subject that you're struggling with, whether it's new patient volume or the clinical experience on day one, or it's, retention in lifetime and wellness care, or it's taking a walk with your children, or it's, living in agape love with your understanding of why you're here and who your creator is and all that stuff. I mean, this stuff is constantly at play, and in all areas of our life, it plays out differently, but each of us has a predisposition. And I'm a predominant action guy. I'll run through the cinder block wall, and then I'll ask for information later if I think there's a person on the other side that needs what I have,
Yeah.
And I'll go, wow, I guess I should have checked into the fact that was cinder block. It would have been better if it was just sheetrock. Sometimes I'm so passionate about what I think needs to be done, I forget to check the details. Some people are obsessed with the details and everything they do, so much so they never really do anything.
Yeah.
And some people are so immersed in their heart that they can't even get to the office on time because I really needed to just relax this morning. No, you have a sign up that says your office opens at 8 o'clock. That means you get there at 7:30, doggone it, but not this morning. It was a different morning. So they're heart predominant, and to ignore that or fight with that would be bad, because someone who's heavily heart driven, that's their blessing, but it's also their challenge and curse. Someone who's dominant action driven, that's their blessing. It can also be a risk. Someone who's dominant intellect and information driven, that's their blessing. It could also be their problem. So when you say to me that sounded nice, what I said, well, this comes from literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of working on my own statement of desire, and thousands of experiences now of helping people work on their statements of desires. I've helped over 2,300 practicing doctors of chiropractic write their own statement of desire. It's one of the things I tithe every week. I do 3 to 4 of those conversations a week, and I never ask for a dime from anybody to do it. If you're a doctor of chiropractic and you want to work on your statement of desire, I will help you.
That's awesome.
And there's nothing attached to it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love that. I think I think a lot of chiropractors are going around that circle because they don't have that center of why in their statement of
Yeah,
desire. They don't have that center
yeah,
focus.
yeah,
That's beautiful. I love to find out what your dominant personality or action is. That just makes so much sense because I've seen, like, wow, I just took action. Oh, or, oh, yeah, I just want to feel good. I'll just meditate all day. Well, I got no patience. I got to take some action. Or, oh, I need
yeah.
some more books. Give me some more books. I need to take some more information. No, just take some action on the information you already know. That
That's
is
right.
brilliant.
That's right.
Brilliant. So let's maybe talk about one action steps in each of the categories. So here is something, the safety pin. I love it. And you can have the little ones and you can have that too. So there's a ton of information in a piece of metal here wrapped in a
Yeah,
safety pin. So this
yeah.
is a lot of information and a lot of chiropractors understand that. Can we maybe help our audience put it into some words or picture and dialogue so then they can get that message out to a one person on the table or a lay lecture?
Right,
Or so
right.
could you just tell how you explain the safety pin cycle?
Well, I love that you do that. I guess that's a way that you somewhat standardize these interviews. I love it, and I don't know the whole construct of what Dr. Headley is engaged in, but I know this. I've been face to face with him many times, and when he does something, his heart is always a virtuous driving reason to do it. And that's why I responded when I saw your name, and you introduced you wrote me an email, and you're like, I don't know if you remember me. Brother, I remembered you instantaneously, and I don't think we've spoken probably for a lot of years. But doing the safety pin cycle right now is a way that you help bring us all together in a common thread. So thank you for doing that. I would believe that it would be a virtue if all college presidents, right, were requiring all students first and foremost on day one to draw and explain their young version of the safety pin cycle and have a version on their first day and video record them on their last day and hand that to them at graduation to see what it has grown to mean for them. So I love that you got us
I
doing that.
love that. Thank you.
So one of the things I teach in TLC to all of our doctors of chiropractic is that there's 3 spinal workshops you have to learn how to do with just a magic marker and a whiteboard. And one of them is the subluxation workshop. Another one is on time, frequency, and intensity. And the third one is on lifetime care. So this is something very real for me. All right. So when I do this, the first thing I talk about is that, in the creation of life, all right, from the 9-month gestational period onward, the first differentiating moment that a clump of cells creates anything that is differentiated, the first differentiating moment is the central nervous system's initiation of a brain, a nervous system. That's the first. There's got to be something to that in the creation of life, from one cell to another coming together, and we get the creation of this baby, the first thing that defines this new life is central nervous system. And for the rest of time, on this side of all that is told, the rest of time, that brain will be sending information out and more so receiving information in. The brain knows, seek first to understand before being understood, that listening is first. Now that we're studying the effects of subluxation on the afferent and efferent processes, we're understanding that the biggest damage we can have, all right, both of them are bad, but if the information isn't getting to the brain so the brain can properly process how to respond to the body, that may very well be the worst of all blockages. But in any case, the brain is in constant communication back and forth with everything going on in every part of the body. So there's information going to the body saying, move my leg, all right? That would be conscious output of information. And then there is information coming back to the brain saying, oh my gosh, left leg holding full weight, lean left, counterbalance. So there's all this information going back and forth. This is a constant afferent, efferent exercise in everything, everything. There's millions and millions of sequences. Right now, my respiration is going through an afferent, efferent control mechanism because I'm talking fast. I'm getting very excited. I'm talking about chiropractic, talking about the safety pin cycles. And now my respiration's got to go up. My lungs have to do this. The blood has to start pumping more. And oh, my hands are moving. The afferent-efferent loop is at play all day, even with something as basic as, there's something that's entered his airwaves that's foreign to the body and not safe. We better start to elevate white blood count. That's an afferent-efferent loop in mechanism. What doctors of chiropractic discovered from the very beginning is that the stability or the safety, I always have a spine, I didn't even know you were going to ask me that question, but I try to always keep a spine around. The stability and ideal functionality of every one of these bones plays an evident and definable and and measurable impact upon the ability for that afferent-efferent process to happen. So that even a minor misalignment of vertebra can impose what Chung-Ha Su's research showed was a 60% shutdown in nerve flow, and that in doing so, you could actually feel fine, which is how I understand subluxations are no different than cancer or any other disease process. In its early stages, you don't feel the discomfort, but the body is damaged by the compromise. So subluxation, when you inflict a subluxation upon this system in as little as a minor misalignment, inflicting 60% shutdown where you still feel fine, now you have the information that's actually blocked both ways, down and back, confusing the brain as to the status of the body, giving confused information to the body. Disease processes run rampant, but they could be symptomless or asymptomatic for months or years, while subluxation sleeps and incubates and festers and degenerates the ability for human life to be its best. And so then you happen to also go through a divorce, or you happen to have a car accident, or you happen to eat poor foods, and subluxation prevails at deteriorating your body's ability to deal with any of it. And then you get liver disease, or you get kidney disease, and then someone in an allopathic institution says, oh, the problem is your kidneys. Well, maybe at this point the kidney is having a problem, but what led to the kidney compromising? Kidney doesn't create bad kidney. That's not how human flesh was created. So if the kidney is given its ability, if the nervous system is given its ability, a life created creates more vitality unless compromised. Chiropractic has been teaching this for 120 years, and the allopath has denied it from ignorance and lack of being well-read. Science is slowly catching up to the brilliance of chiropractic simplicity. And the feeble-minded chiropractor who doubts themselves because simplicity eludes them goes to the allopathic agenda of trying to treat symptoms rather than, how about we just fix the subluxations and let life do its best.
Beautiful, beautiful. Simplicity, powerful, truth.
All right, good.
Do you have one whole workshop on this? Do you do that part of a workshop? Do you do it online videos? I mean, that's powerful,
Yeah.
right? If everyone understood that, wow, the big idea, if chiropractors understood that first and owned it, and then what if we just told people walking through our doors, if they just understood one thing, get that.
Yeah. Well, it's a challenge because a lot of chiropractors who consider themselves well-read are not well-read other than the few things they've chosen to read, and they lump things in a bucket. I had a great conversation the other day with a very academically intelligent guy the other day, and he says to me, well, Dr. DePice, you're amazing. He sat through my 12-hour CE program, and he's like, you're shit. In fact, his wife was in the program, who's not a DC. She went and got him out of his radiology class or his Medicare class and said, you're coming over here to listen to this, who's at the North Carolina convention. And he comes and sits in the class, and he says, wow, this is amazing. So the two of them now are immersed in deep one-on-one coaching work that we're doing together. And the other day he's talking, he goes, well, I understand that the work you're doing is very subluxation-based, but I'm very evidence-based. What do you do, with the separation between the two? So I paused for a second, and I had to do like the RCA dog thing where he's looking in the cone because he doesn't quite understand something. I'm like, science doesn't separate the two. So why would I have to deal with the separation when there is no separation between evidence and the removal of subluxation? I mean, there's no lack of research in chiropractic regarding the subluxation. There's even more mounds of evidence outside of the chiropractic profession dealing with the cessation and change. I remember when the medical research came out. 6 or 7 medical doctors published a study about the disease and rate of disease that happens when there's compromise of the sagittal positioning of the C7 plumb line. And it was a complete medical report, and they talked about how this would suggest it would be wise to take routine x-rays just to understand annually the health and vitality of someone, or the likely provision of a place that will fester disease based upon poor posture. And that was during one of the first years I started to hear chiropractors talking about wanting to make a criminal act against your license to take x-rays, or certainly to take re-x-rays, and that there's no justification for x-rays. So, I mean, we get very confused because people aren't held to having to do their due diligence to become well-read. If a true doctor is holding true to the requirement to be a good scientist, then you need to read the research and always look to the methods to understand that the research is valid. And when you do that in the reading, you understand there is no lack of evidence for the damaging, devastating, deteriorating effects of subluxations upon human life. And whether you're a doctor who believes a subluxation is a hard bone on a soft nerve, or you're someone who's, no, it's not that, or you believe a subluxation is an inflammatory response upon a dorsal nerve root ganglion, no, it's not that, or you believe a subluxation is a meningeal torquing issue, no, it's not that, or you believe that a subluxation is the change in the electronegative charge of inflammatory fluids along a myelin sheath, changing the rate of saltatory motion so that that kind of a chemical model of a subluxation affects, oh no, it's not, whatever your model, it's subluxation. That's what we do. That's what we look for. We're doctors of chiropractic, but too many doctors have gotten through school and not been educated to be intelligent in the simplicity of that, and to realize that, well, defining that the mechanism may be different does not justify destroying the vernacular that brought us to the conversation. When geneticists were proven to be virtually 85% wrong, and all the textbooks you and I read to graduate school on genetics had to be thrown out and burned, geneticists didn't throw away their vernacular. You know, so only in ignorance. You know, here's one. My brother-in-law had me at his daughter's wedding, and he's a preventative medicine physician for the military, big at Walter Reed Hospital. When his daughter got married, he put me at a table with 2 different individuals, one from NIH and one from the CDC. And I remember saying to them, hey, you know, in the medical profession, are there specialties that in trying to get closer with one another, they choose to divorce themselves of their own language so they can use a common language? And these 2 guys instantaneously laughed. Said, are you kidding me? Specialties do everything they can every year to invent terminology to further distance themselves from every other specialty so they can more proclaim the uniqueness of their specialty. So again, you know, there are weak-minded people that didn't really graduate with chiropractic intelligence, chiropractic intellect, if you will, enough to know, look, the language is a language. Now, let's get back to the work of describing the mechanisms. And there are many different mechanisms scientifically proven that define how subluxation compromises the afferent-efferent process. But I went down that rabbit hole pretty far there. Sorry about that.
No, that's very good. That's brilliant. And alluding to something you said earlier, with all the information out there and all the busyness, and I think less is more and simplicity is king today. And we can explain this in 1 minute, or we can do a half-hour lecture on it, depending on the setting. So I think it's so brilliant. And you can go in as much detail as you want. If you're a head guy, you know, you can just
That's right.
Dozens of research studies. You're a heart guy, talk about the flow and the ease and the removing interference and, you know, the dis-ease. And if you're a hands guy, you can get the bones on and kinesthetic and do a demonstration if you want to, and pass around the spine so they can feel it and see it. So you can apply this to so many aspects, but simplicity, you got to make it simple so people can understand it. They're so busy and filled up there.
Yeah, well, that's the challenge, is that chiropractic is so simple. Man's nature is to overcomplicate things. I need shiny objects. I need more belt buckles. I need more shoes. I need more this. I need more looks. I need more attention. Shut up. Chiropractic is simple. Keep it simple. The challenge is sometimes we don't feel filled up enough with ourselves or whatever. And, you know, that's a judgment. So whatever it is, we make it more complex. That's for sure. So I wanted to share a different model with you because you said to me originally, I think you wanted to talk about how to help a struggling chiropractor jumpstart their situation. Is it okay if I go to that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So one of the things I prepared for was this. If the chiropractor doesn't get this principle, respect this principle, drive up and protect this principle, you're done. Sooner or later, you're going to be bankrupt. And you know, one of the challenges is then we feel bad about ourselves. But listen to me. Every doctor of chiropractic is likewise, well, I shouldn't say every, most doctors of chiropractic are owners of a business. One of the most stressful things you could do in the world is try to own your own business. What is it? 2/3 of them are shut down within 1 year. Another 2/3 of those that make it to 3 years end up shut down. And, you know, the numbers are astonishing. Independent businesses fail. But as a doctor of chiropractic, knowingly or unknowingly, you signed up to be a businessman or woman. And that's a big calling. Then on top of that, you chose a business that is involved in healthcare that has the scrutiny of federal agencies on it. You're nuts. And then if you're not nuts enough with those two issues, then you chose a vitalistic profession, chiropractic, that swims against the mainstream willingness to understand that you have to work to be healthy. The world seeks to not work for anything. So you got 3 major strikes against you. So you're going to have times where you scratch your head and go, what's going on in my practice? And this conundrum of 4 to 6 must be played out all the time. And what it is either you're growing 4 to 6% every year, or within 7 years, you're struggling with the agonies of near bankruptcy. How does that play out? Well, in any practice, you have whatever your collections are per month. All right. From 0 to 100 points represents that money. Okay. Let's say your money is that your practice collects $50,000 a month, just to be simple. Mm-hmm. Well, usually chiropractic office overhead runs somewhere around 50%. We have some practices in TLC that are 25% overhead. That's quite a treat. We have some practices that are higher. First year practices might even be at 75, but on average, we can safely say it's somewhere around 50%. Mm-hmm. So if 50% of your money, okay, is to overhead, OH, the other 50% is your paycheck. So that means you might have a $25,000 a month paycheck. So you have 100 points of money, all right? You have this $250, 100 increments of $250 to live your monthly budget. 30+% of it goes to taxes, blah, blah, blah. So you're living on that money. Well, most chiropractors reach whatever level of success they're going to reach somewhere between 3 and 8 years out of school. Some kids dreamt they want to see 100 a week. Some dreamt they want to see 200 a week, 300 a week. Some want to see 300 a day, whatever. The number doesn't matter as much as that you get to it somewhere 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years out. And then you get there and go, whew. So if I use the example of 300 visit a week practice, okay? Sure. If you reach a 300 visit a week practice 3, 4, 5 years out, it's not uncommon that you might sit back for a year and go, wow, I'm paying all my student loans, I'm obliterating other debts, I'm able to buy a decent car, I got some clothes that I like. So you create a standard of living. And many chiropractors sit there for a year. Well, if you sit there for a year of these 100 slashes of money, what happens to the rate of heating oil? What happens to the rate of car insurance? What happens to the rate? Everything goes up about 3% a year. So you've lost 3 slashes of your 50 slashes of buying power. 1 year. Yeah. That's not a big deal. You still got 47 slashes of buying power.
Yeah.
What if you don't grow for a second year? 1, 2, 3, another 3 slashes. Now you've lost 6 slashes. What if you stay steady another year? 3 more slashes. Now look, you're seeing 300 a week. You worked to get here. You remember the days you weren't earning anything. You bought this nice house. The landscaper to mow your lawn, however, he keeps raising his fees. And the insurance companies want to pay you what? Less. So most coaches haven't even lived 20 years in practice to hear the story. Because what I've learned is my own story. Between 8 and 14 years in practice, I was like, I have $1 million a year practice, and I'm having to be mindful about what I'm doing with my money here. What the heck is that about? Well, I stopped growing. I stayed at that level, which sounds like it's good. I was fine. I mean, I destroyed all my student loan debt in less than 6 years. I bought buildings, I did things, but I was more leaning on my laurels of past successes than continuing to make new ones. And I remember I sat steady for about 6 years at that level. Think about it. If you spend 6 or 7 years, let's go 7 years, you've slashed off 21 increments of your buying power. 21 points means your paycheck is now buying half the house, half the landscaping, half the dinners out, half the automobile value that you were able to buy 7 years ago. And then the chiropractor feels disenchanted. The chiropractor decides, wow, can I sell colonic irrigation now, or can I do something else to make extra money? And they're trying to find a way to make extra money. And then some people, like I had a coach that he didn't live but a year or two in practice, and he was doing just adjust more people. So I'm adjusting 100 a day. I went to 200 a day. I was adjusting 300 a day. I was like, where's this going to go? I hadn't learned the virtues of how to raise my fees. And most importantly, I didn't learn how to raise associate doctors. And this is the tragedy in our profession. If I could leave us with anything right now, you need to grow 4 to 6% every year. You can take a few years off, but you can't take 6 or 7 years off. And not only do you need to grow 4 to 6% a year, I'm challenging every practicing doctor of chiropractic who does have the competency to run a business. So some doctors of chiropractic don't. Great, be an associate. But the associate history in our profession sucks. Most host doctors, we call them, don't know how the heck to treat an associate. And most associates come out thinking they're going to tell the host what to do, or they're here for some quick short gain. Or, well, I want to start at 60 grand a year and I want to get. There has to be a virtue to it. So my calling to all practicing doctors of chiropractic is, in your career, you have to make your practice so ridiculously spilling over with prosperity that you need to hire associates. There are two kinds of associates. One is a patriarch or matriarch that's going to stay with you forever. They really don't want to own their own business. And frankly, they're not cut out to, but they're clinically beautiful people. And then there's other associates that need to open their own practice, but they want to steward under a great mentor and learn to be a doctor of chiropractic, not what many of our colleges are churning out now, which is a potpourri palette guy says, well, you don't have to get adjusted. You could try this, or you could try that, or you could try this, or you could be a doctor of chiropractic. If you raise up 4 or 5 doctors of chiropractic, look at me, all of you, I'm challenging you right now. If you have a reasonably competent practice, turn it into an outrageously successful practice and employ and spin off 4 or 5 doctors in your career. Keep one as your patriarch or matriarch and live the life of your dreams. You can even help them set up their practices and have almost like retirement annuity programs, sell each practice to them for $250,000 or more, but help them be blessed practicing chiropractors. And here's the thing. You grow your practice 4 to 6% annually, and in your career, you raise up 4 to 6 associates honorably. This profession is cleaned up from the disarray that many of our academic institutions are abandoning their responsibility to eternally.
That makes so much sense. With the coasting, I've arrived at my 300 a week, and but after 3 or 4 years, like you said, I'll try this new shiny buckle syndrome, or I'll throw in some money on rentals and this and that where I don't put any focus. Oh geez, now I'm really strapped because I left off a lot of money, that I'm losing focus. I don't have my statement of desire top of mind, and I've kind of lost my why. That totally makes sense. That's brilliant. I think everyone needs to sit down and really, really contemplate that. Find out all the details though. What is your overhead? Are you at your maximum potential? Are you
right.
Are you at 100 a week? Is that your potential? Or is that, or do you need to grow?
Right.
Do you need some assistance?
Let's go down that road, because I was just on the phone with the gal the other day, Dr. Alyssa. She's an angel. She's clinically an amazing chiropractor. She needed to tune up her practice a little bit. And she said to me, well, Dr. Dean, I don't know if talking to you is a good idea because you're a high volume guy. So I said, you mean high volume like 120 a week? She goes, no, you're a high volume guy. I said, that is high volume. If you're a NUCA practitioner and you're at 120 a week, odds are you're blowing the circuits off the house, because that technique clinically reaches a top point for its clinicians around that. There are some other neurological techniques where 90 visits. I have one doctor I coach in Manhattan. We call them the hummingbird metabolisms in practice. That's a practice where less than 90 visits a week, they're struggling. More than 110 visits a week, they can't keep up. They have a hummingbird metabolism, all right? But their appointments values are somewhere between $200 to $400 a visit. So I coach people that their high volume is 110 a week. So don't get into this, oh, I know what high volume means. No, high volume should mean you playing at a high standard of what's the maximum. I mean, if a runner's a runner, what does he want to run? Slow? No, he wants to run fast. Occasionally he might want to take a stroll in the woods, but in his craft, in his virtue, in his gift, in his ability to be the gladiator of running, he wants to run fast. If somebody builds skyscrapers, they want to build the biggest skyscrapers. If somebody plays the violin, they want to play the sweetest notes. You know, so if you want to be a chiropractor, you want to play at the highest volume that is your potential to serve humanity, feel like you sweat in the day, go home as a man who feels glorious and honorable for what you gave to others, and that your heart is sweet, and you come home and you say, I love you to the person of your dreams, and you pat your kids on the head because daddy or mommy worked really hard in the day. High volume is you playing a high game. Don't judge the numbers. Society has gotten us into this, oh, well, this guy is stop putting people in buckets. Just look in the mirror at your story being its best. So one of the things I love to do with TLC docs is I like to get them to between 35 to 45% overhead. That's dreamland.
Mm-hmm.
Because then your paycheck is, and as you get older, if you do things right, you can actually keep lowering your overhead. You can't get it much lower than 35 to 25%. But if you're lowering your overhead, you're increasing your service to humanity, you're employing other chiropractors, and you're being efficient with your own finances, and every 3 years you raise your fees. But look, you know, Mike, this is why you can't do it alone. You know, this picture I brought up in the beginning, you're not going to work on this in a textbook, because the information of this, it's just information. You're not going to fix this because of your heart, because your heart will go all over the place. And you're not going to fix this just because you start doing things, because, you know, you could be doing the not ideal things. So the virtue of fixing this is that we need to be in a community of like-minded people, because when good people come together and collaboratively do good things, hope is elevated. And I guess that's one of the things I want to leave you with. You know, I have such a strong driving energy. Sometimes people feel like, well, I can't do what he does. You know, he's got, look, there are there's billions of ways that the virtue of life needs to be lived out. And you weren't put here on earth to fail. You weren't. And wherever you are in your story, you weren't brought this far along in your story to fail. God didn't put you here to just dump you in a trash can. He put you here because you have a gift to give. And you know what? If you're still breathing, you haven't given it completely yet. So your best story is still ahead of you. But I challenge you. One of the things you're going to have to do is work on your statement of desire, because the heart drives everything. You know, there's a fad going on now. You know, when Stephen Covey was big, there was a fad about unconscious incompetence versus conscious competence. You know, that was the fad of leadership skills and all that. Now the fad is your why. Well, none of this is fad. This has been written about and played out for all of recorded time. This is just an agenda where, in my work, if I'm going to sit with you, you're going to end up with the most extraordinary information, because we're spilling over. TLC, our doctors have been in practice 30, 40, and 50 years. You're listening to people who have gotten married and shown you that they stayed married, people who paid taxes and they're living not in trouble with the IRS, and you can know it because you can check behind the black curtain. You know, I want for the leadership in our profession to be demanding that people who stand up and talk better have street credibility. There's way too many people eager to come out of school and say, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a teacher. How about you be a doer first?
Yeah.
How about you have the street creds? So you're going to get the information. You're going to darn well be held accountable to the action. But we're going to start with your heart, because you're a good person. And you didn't get in this place where your practice needs a jump start because you're a bad person. It's because somehow this didn't play out properly. Or maybe it's that you really shouldn't be trying to run a business, and that shouldn't be embarrassing. but you should have leaders of your profession who can employ you competent. We have doctors of chiropractic that are associates in TLC earning $150,000 to $175,000 a year, and that's what associates should be earning. But they better start on the Marine Corps model.
Yeah.
When I teach the 7 levels, levels 1 and 2, I do my best to get you to quit. Because if you're a quitter and a loser, I don't want to find out on the battlefield, nor does a Marine.
Yeah.
We're going to find out in training. And if you're a quitter and a loser, we're going to find that out early enough. We're still going to try and rehabilitate you, but we ain't going to put you in the front line of my practice.
Yeah.
And if an associate shows up without the humility to work through levels 1 and 2, they're not going to get to the 7 levels of 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, because I can't put you on the front line of combat. But almost everybody who works through levels 1 and 2, they go all the way to the top. So.
And I love that. And I have a few more questions before we can introduce how people can work with you, how they can learn more about how to look for associates, hire them, train them, this, the process of implementing them into a practice. Because I think that is, like you said, it's so missing in our profession. And all these other professions are doing it, from eye doctors to dentists to lawyers. If they can figure it out, I think we can figure this thing out as well. And that's genius. And if you want to be the best associate doctor possible, that maybe $150,000 to $170,000 a year with low stress. You go home, you don't have to run the business and crunch the numbers. That you can have a really great life and still, live your purpose. And that's very noble and great too. And so we have to run our own race. And that's what I love about what you do, is you have all the information there, and you don't just try to fit everyone into the same hole. You want to get the most out of them and have them apply their genius to the type of practice, whether it's 100 a week in Manhattan or you want to see 1,000 a week. Well, here's how you do that. And this is your passion and your pursuits. That's the genius of a great coach and a great mentor like you are. So that's just why you're so good at it, as you know. And it's just brilliant to really get to the cause, just like that safety pin. Keep it simple and get to the cause and speak the truth.
Yeah. As you're saying that, it makes me think of when people ask what's unique or different about TLC, I always tell them it's the community. There's a lot of great, exciting seminars in our profession where everybody's running around wanting to scream about how medicine's bad, or I got the biggest numbers, or there's just this, it's almost, like a testosterone contest in our profession. And in TLC, the community is sweet. We have the one call that goes on every month that's just women DCs who are, at the crossroads of life, where there's family, there's children, and they're all together and they're working on how to do things. But it's the community that raises each other up. If we're going to work on our head, heart, and hands, and we have a community that holds us accountable to that, a community where we look at each other and say, did you really do what you just said? When we founded TLC, one of the things I did is I demanded that my board of advisors, I was flanked by men who were married with women who were strong in relationships that were solid. Because to me, many of the great movements in our profession have come and gone. And most of the ones that came and went, they were destroyed because of ultimate narcissism from their founders. And TLC, when I'm dead and gone, I want you to have a hard time finding my name. I want the movement to prevail. My family exists today largely because of the blessings of program work, 12-step program work. And in those kinds of programs, nobody's the big boss and nobody's insignificant. Everyone works the program and we work the steps. And ultimately, you sponsor others. And my dream for this profession is to raise up great chiropractors who are going to clean up their own act. They're going to stop their dependencies upon shiny objects. They're going to appreciate the simplicity of principles played out. And ultimately, they're going to raise up other brothers and sisters, 4 to 6 of them in their career, and we can clean this up. We have too many schools where the entire executive profile of the college is led by people who they themselves didn't live in practice for 20, 30, 40 years. If we have most of college leadership being led by people who didn't try to stay married in practice, try to raise kids in practice, try to obliterate debts in practice, try to be honorable with the IRS in practice, end up growing gray and older in practice, You can't bring, now I'm not saying all teachers have to be people who are in practice. That's not what I'm saying. Don't take my statement out of context. I'm saying that at least half of all academic institutions for a profession whose majority of all its existence is private practice, they have to have lived in private practice, and they haven't. And this is a tragedy that our leadership needs to take under its grip. The majority of competency in serving civilization with chiropractic is private practice. The majority of leadership in the academic institutions are people who never lived in practice.
Yeah.
And so we've eviscerated the profession of the dream and the victory of how to live in practice as recent decades have played out, in focusing more on head and academics than the balance of all of it. We need the head and the academics, but we need the balance of all of it. And I'm here to say, I recognize something that's wrong. And I'm going to spend every ounce of breath I have making it right or die trying. And the way to do that is one doctor at a time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. I totally agree with that. I was a professor at Life University. That's gospel truth there. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to do our rapid fire round, real quick questions and answers, and then we'll finish on how they can get more of TLC. Dean, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Pray.
Okay.
You know, every morning I read what I know is God's word, and then I pray upon it. And it causes me to pause and slow down and to listen to those who are willing to read upon it, live upon it, rest upon it, live an example by it. Because from those, I think, who was it? Was it Thoreau? Who said, in any case, methods there are many, millions perhaps. Principles there are few. The man who scrambles at methods without defining his principles is sure for ruin. The man who chooses his principles, the man who lives by his principles or identifies his principles, will select his methods with wisdom and prosper. So that's, you know, grammatically it's a little off from the actual quote, but basically we have to define our beliefs and our principles, our worldviews first, and then from that be wise men and women, boys and girls, at how we choose what we do.
Awesome. Awesome. Is there one success habit that you can share with us that really is your go-to stable
Get up
habit?
early. Get up early. Be early. Early's it's really challenging, you know, and I get it. It's difficult. And when you're depressed or you're not paying your bills and you want to sleep more, maybe you're compensating with foods at night that make you wake up later. Whatever it is, getting up early is the problem. Getting up early is the victory. Early. Showing up at your office early, because when things are quiet and you're before the mayhem, you have to look in the mirror sooner or later. So of all the disciplines, be that man or woman. And if right now you get up at 8:30 and you just make it in the office at 9, well, early could be 8:15. You know, don't turn, oh, I can't get up at 4:30 like him. Good, don't. If your thing is 9, start with 8:30. If your thing is 8:30, try 8:15. If your thing is 8:15, try 8. But you can win at little baby steps. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Awesome. Awesome. Any success book that you can recommend to our listeners?
Well, I mean, I think I've made enough references to my primary book in life.
Yeah.
Sure. In addition to that, it's upstairs. I've read and reread and read alongside of many other chiropractors, Ogmandino's Greatest Secret in the World on the Scrolls. There's many newfangled books out there. You know, I love Tony Robbins and all these people, but really, I love going back to the classics. I love going back to the Earl Nightingales. I love going back to the Norman Vincent Peales, because the principles never change. I mean, people put new sizzle on and go, oh, I got to go to this or that. That's more shiny object stuff. Go to the classics. Ogmandino's Greatest Secret in the World. He has a lot of different books. You got to name it properly. The Greatest Secret in the World on the 10 Scrolls.
Thank you. Any project you're working on right now that you're fired up about?
Yeah, well, I've deeply invested myself over the course of the past 10, 12 years in 5 different colleges to try and give them what we do in TLC as a medium to raise up their students. And most of the colleges end up in solicitous relationships that are money-based, and that's how they choose this or that's how they choose that. And I'm working on the most blessed expression so far of my ability to reach the students so that we raise them up. And everybody knows, you know, and our national board knows that if you affect what people are thinking in their formative years, you will change how they live out the remainder of their years. So I'm loving reaching the young people now. TLC is on a movement. TLC is a community like none other. TLC is on a crusade. TLC is great. I'm really giving myself to the students as much as I can now. And there are dozens of TLC leadership coaches all over the country carrying the torch for the in-practice doctors. I'm here, I'm doing all of it, but the kids.
Awesome. I love that. That's so noble. I thank you for doing that. Last two questions. What are you most proud of, Dean?
The moments when I pause and I leave Coriana and Jen feeling my love, feeling me look out for them. That's when I've put aside most of my weakest character traits and I've picked up the pursuit of my most virtuous ambition. It's leaving
Beautiful.
them love.
Beautiful. How do you want to be remembered?
As the guy that pulled that off. I'm a barreler. I am very passionate, and as I drive towards things, the people closest to me pay a price. And ironically, you know, I want to do all these good things for so many people in our profession, and it could be easy, you know, to not make sure my own house is nurtured or loved. I do a pretty good job, but I can always be better at it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being real, authentic, and sharing so much. Any last words you want to share with our listeners?
Dude, get checked. TLC, if we don't need any, I don't have a single contract. We don't do contracts. We don't sell shiny objects. We don't have software programs we're selling. You don't have to, you know, you're going to do a 5 years. I mean, there are schools where the kids are being sold on contract. This is nuts what's going on in our profession. So in TLC, what I want to do is have a conversation with you. I'm going to spend an hour helping you write a statement of desire, and listen to me. In the midst of that call, it's going to be real clear to me and real clear to you if there's something good happening. And if there is, and you want to know what we do, great. You can do online learning. You can do modular learning. You could be in one-on-one coaching. You can do a lot of things, but don't even go there. If you talk to me, it's because what you're going to want to engage with me is a way to help bring out what's best in you by working on your statement of desire. So call TLC, schedule a breakthrough conversation. We call it a PBA, Practice Breakthrough Assessment, and just schedule the time. I do 4 of them a week, and it's my tithing to the profession. I told you, I've done 2,300 of them. I've never charged a dime for any of them. It's where I get to meet all of you. And
Awesome.
Some of you, it was clear really quickly that we'd probably give each other subluxations more than remove them. So it's fine.
Yeah.
And some of us, we have, there are people I've been coaching for 25, 30 years already. So I would love to connect with you. So whatever Dr. Mike puts up as a web listing or the phone number, just connect with us. Go on our website. There's free stuff. There's videos. Just connect.
All right. Just give us quick the phone number and or email, okay, and then we'll put the link up too.
Yeah, the website is www.tlc4superteams, and it's plural, superteams.com. So tlc4superteams.com, or just call us at 215-657-1701. Everybody here is lovely. We have team members that have been working in TLC and in our practice for 24 years. We're around for over 30 years, but we're about loyalty and cleanliness of relationships, and you're going to see it in everything we do. So, and Mike, you're an angel.
Thank you so much. I love talking with you and for you. You give everything. You're just a lover. You're a giver. You really get people. You really want to understand their core. You have core principles. You live in integrity, and you just walk your talk. You're a great, great example in our profession, what we all should strive to be like: selfless servant, family man, a giver, a lover, giving back to the profession, not just like, hey, how much more can I get, and how many accolades and how much money can I stack up in my garage? No, you are the real deal. That's why I love you so much for sharing your time today. That's just a brilliant. I wish you well in the future, and I hope all of our listeners will give you a call and have that conversation with you and connect with their statement of desire and work on that, because that's a game changer. Just that alone is a game changer. And then if you're a good fit, wow, you can just help them grow 4 to 6% a year. Brilliant. Genius. Thank you so much, Dean.
Thank you, Mike. This is really a treat. You do this well. Thank you.
All right. Well, God bless, and continue up that busy schedule and changing lives and saving lives, and best wishes to your wife and your family.
Thank you. All right. You too, Mike.
Thanks.
God bless. Bye-bye.